Hello and welcome back to Jake and Kyle's Spooky Good Time.
I'm Jake.
I'm Kyle. What are we talking about this week, Jake?
We are talking about, first of all, we're going to have our first episode in a series of horror for kids.
And what's the name of the series?
The name of the series we're going to be talking about today is...
What's the name of our series?
Jake and Kyle's Spooky Good Time?
No, Horror for Kids.
That's what I said.
Yeah, you said it's about horror for kids, but the name is Horror for Kids.
Horror for Kids.
And what are we talking about this week?
We're talking about Over the Garden Wall by Cartoon Network.
Oh, awesome.
Yes.
I'm not surprised by that at all because I watched it ahead of time.
Put my pumpkin back up here.
I like your pumpkin.
Thank you. I like my pumpkin too.
It's very cute.
We have to be age appropriate for this video, Kyle. So kids out there, even though most of the people who have seen Over the Garden Wall are probably in college now. It was like part of their time. But for the kids who decide to go searching for Over the Garden Wall, welcome to Jake and Kyle's Spooky Good Time.
Don't watch any of our other videos without parental permission.
Without parental guidance and permission.
Yes.
Kyle, how about you tell us a little bit about what Over the Garden Wall is about? A little synopsis.
Sure. But first, how do we have a drink?
It's customary here on Jake and Kyle's Spooky Good Time to have a drink to go along with our conversation. And today we have a very age-appropriate beverage, don't we, Kyle?
I mean, I'm enjoying it, so I think it's appropriate for any age.
Oh, man. So, tell me, Kyle, what did you make us today?
So this is butterbeer in the style that you would get at Universal Studios in Harry Potter World, whatever that's called. I don't know.
How did you make this, Kyle? I saw you were spending a lot of time making this. What's in this? What makes it a butter beer?
So we start with a cream soda base. So I use 1 bottle of cream soda. I add 2 teaspoons of butter extract. Now, just a side note, that has a negligible amount of alcohol in it, but if that's something you're concerned about, they have non-alcoholic options out there, or you can skip it. Then I whipped some cream, and I added butterscotch on the top.
That tastes freaking amazing. I'm over here just having a grand old time. I want to mix the cream up a little bit. This tastes amazing.
Oh, yeah.
You've truly outdone yourself yet again, my friend.
We got these cool mugs.
Man, these are cool mugs.
At Middle of Beyond. We're not sponsored, but
we're open to it.
We thought they looked cool and it fit our Horror for Kids theme. There you go.
There you go. And this whole episode is just going to be me drinking this because I can't even talk. It's that good. Highly recommend. Chef's kiss. My hands are sticky now. That's okay.
That's okay. You can lick them. So, Over the Garden Wall.
Yeah, tell us. What's it about, Kyle?
So, this is straight from our friends at IMDb. 2 brothers find themselves lost in a mysterious land and try to find their way home.
That's a good way to put it. Nice and brisk way to put it. I like it.
This was created by Patrick McHale. And it was the Emmy winner for Best Animated Program.
Very nice.
In 2015.
Well deserved.
And it stars Elijah Wood as Wirt, Colin Dean as Greg,
Melanie Linsky as Beatrice, and then we got John Cleese, who played Endicott in Adelaide. All right.
Yes.
And my personal favorite,
Tim Curry.
Good old Tim Curry is Auntie Whispers.
And there's one we've left off the list.
Who did we leave off the list?
Dr. Emmett Brown.
Oh, yes, Doc Brown. Doc Brown, who plays the woodsman.
Yes.
Yeah. What a great character.
Christopher Lloyd.
I love all of these characters. And your personal favorite character.
Me? What?
Who's your personal favorite character? Who's your favorite song?
Oh, right. The Highwayman. I'm the Highwayman. And I'm making ends meet. I love the music.
Better than myself. Couldn't have done it better myself. I like when you do it.
I love the music in this.
I love the music too. It's so good.
Old-timey, jazzy, kind of ragtime almost.
Yes. It's like this very interesting old school blues. So this is our first episode in Horror4Kidz. I chose this one because it's a story that I have really liked for quite a long time now. Really admired.
So why is that?
Well, even when I was a little bit younger, early college is what I was when this first came out, almost 10 years ago now. Wow. But what I really liked about it is I'd always kind of liked Adventure Time when I was younger, and Patrick McHale worked on Adventure Time, and I knew about it just because a lot of friends of mine and myself really liked Cartoon Network. I really liked the stuff they were putting out at the time, and everyone kind of went crazy for Over the Garden Wall. It immediately had a cult following as soon as it came out. And so I remember checking it out for that reason. And I liked it because it was quirky, fun, and so different from anything else that was being shown. And then every couple of years, I've revisited it. And now, after being completely done with both my 4-year degree and grad school, and now coming into my professional career, I have even more of an appreciation for it because it's so well thought out. And I think that's really, if I'm being entirely honest, what's missing from a lot of children's stories nowadays. I won't point out which ones I really can't stand, but there's a lot of kid stories out there that have just been dumbed down. And I feel like this story really taps into a nice balance between this quirky, childlike humor while also being a very mature and very intelligent story and tale of these two brothers and their journey and descent into essentially what is a limbo state in between life and death.
Well, we should put a spoiler in here.
Spoiler full. There will be only spoilers discussed during this conversation. Every time I drink this, it's so splendid.
Maybe next time it'll just be the whipped cream, just a whole cup of whipped cream.
so that I'm talking
whipped
like...
cream's the best part.
I'm talking about like this the whole time.
You sound like Johnny Crop.
John Crops? John Crops, right?
John Crops.
Oh my gosh, yes. So in the pilot episode,
There's a pilot episode for those out there who don't know.
For those who don't know,
There's another episode.
There's 10 episodes of Over the Garden Wall, but there's a pilot episode that doesn't follow the main story, but it has Wirt and Greg in it. Yeah. But Kyle, you're a first-time viewer. Tell me, what were your initial thoughts? What characters really stood out to you? What stories? Because even though there's an overarching narrative here, these are also very episodic at the same time, even though they're all thematically connected. So explain to me, what were your favorite moments, your favorite episodes? What really stood out to you on a first time as a first-time watcher?
Unlike what's become the norm in television today, this is, as you were saying, episodic.
Mm-hmm.
It has the structure of an odyssey, of an epic, where we're following these characters going and meeting one new character after another, episode after episode, on their journey home. And that's become less and less common in television today. So I found that interesting. It's not totally episodic in that each episode builds on the other. You could enjoy each of them as a standalone story. I love the way that it used music in the storytelling and to create atmosphere. A couple moments that stood out to me. The second episode with the pumpkin god. It gets really, really eerie because you can't read his expression really well.
Yeah.
And he's huge, towering over everyone. And when he leans in, there's something about in the animation, when they employ this sort of old-timey animation technique where they like stretch out the features of the face as a character leans in. Mm-hmm. They did this with the Highwayman character as well. A lot.
Yes.
And something about that's very unnerving.
Yeah. What I also think is I love the second episode because if the first episode didn't set the tone for you, the second episode solidifies that unique tone that this show has. Because in the first episode, spoiler, there's a creature that's coming after Greg and Wirt. And this creature that comes after them is revealed to just be a dog at the end of it, even though it looks like a horrible, monstrous creature. So in the second episode, I feel like there's an expectation that we might get a similar reveal. This odd town of pumpkin people who are wearing pumpkin and corn and different things like that as their limbs, and it feels so weird, and it gets to a point where you're like, oh, are they going to try and kill Greg and Wirt? But you're expecting a reveal to happen, kind of like with the dog in the previous episode. But the reveal only kind of makes it creepier when you realize that these people wearing pumpkins for heads and using other vegetables for limbs, they're skeletons coming out of the ground.
Yes.
And there's a part where Wirt thinks he's digging his own grave.
But he's actually digging somebody out.
He's digging someone else's grave, and they're coming back to life out of their own grave, basically.
What's interesting about this show is that it's always playing with expectations. Nothing is ever what it appears to be. There's many times in the show where you meet a new character, you form an opinion about them, and that opinion is ultimately subverted.
Yeah.
Like with
many times.
Yes. Like with Endicott. Yes, where you think he's some madman who's living in this giant mansion, he's going crazy, and then they start to think, oh, he killed the person who actually was living in this mansion.
Yeah.
But then it turns out to be something silly and mundane, but in a fun way, that he just lives in such a huge mansion that it's connected to another mansion and he didn't even realize it.
Yeah, yeah. Exactly. Yeah, it's always playing with your expectations in unique and random ways. Right when you think you might understand where the show's going, it turns it on its head and immediately goes in a different direction very rapidly.
Like Adelaide.
Like Adelaide, yes, like Adelaide.
It builds it up so much. You think this is going to be the way they're going to get home.
Yeah. And
it's not at all.
I feel like we use this word a lot in our videos. Lynchian, a little bit. Adjacent to that. It feels very dreamlike. But more specifically, this feels dreamlike in the sense what I imagine what would be if I were in a coma. This is the kind of dream I feel like I would have if I were stuck in a coma or something like that. It feels like a stream of consciousness, and it feels like a collection of people and characters that these two main characters have come in contact with recently, and now that they're in this dream world, it's just interesting how all these characters come in and out of their stream of consciousness and add to the arc of their story and the meaning of it.
I like that. There was an interesting interpretation that you found of the storyline. I think it was a YouTube channel, Storyograph. Was that it?
It was Storyograph. So shout out to Storyograph. He had an interesting theory that every episode relates to the 9 types of love described by the ancient Greeks. So, you have the 9 types are agape, mania, xenia, pragma, philia, ludus, storge, eros, and philautia.
Impeccable Greek.
I don't know about that, but
Better than I would do. Better than I would do.
Here's something to note. There's 10 episodes, but there's 9 types of Greek love. And so the interesting thing is that the first episode is the antithesis of one of the types of Greek love, and that's storge. And so the first episode, he says, is astorge, which is to be the opposite of storge, which is the opposite of familial love, to be without familial bond in love, which I find very interesting because Greg and Wirt are half brothers, as you find out in the story, and Wirt really has a lack of care and responsibility for his little brother, and oftentimes is using his little brother as a scapegoat for a lot of his mistakes or anytime anything goes wrong. So it's very interesting. And by the way, agape is love for God, or like a fatherly love. Mania is an obsessive love. Xenia is a love for guests and friendship. Pragma is a committed love. Philia is a friendly love. Ludus is a flirtatious love. Storge is familial love. Eros is romantic love. And philautia is self-love.
I take it that the Auntie Whispers episode is your fave.
That's my fave, and I'll tell you why. So, my favorite episode is episode number 7, The Ringing of the Bell. The ringing of the bell commands you. I love that episode because Auntie Whispers is just so creepy, and I was very, very delighted to hear that was Tim Curry who voiced
The OG Pennywise.
The OG Pennywise, yeah. And the OG Pennywise. And it was just, that's awesome. I love Tim Curry, and I thought he did a really great job. Like I was kind of telling you before, I like that his performance is both perfectly creepy in the weird whispery tone that he's in, and also it's funny because when there's a distressing moment,
the way that she reacts to things is so muted. It's really amusing.
It is very amusing, and it fits her name, Auntie Whispers.
Yes,
everything she does is a whisper, not just her voice.
Yes, and I like the character design. It looks like Baba from Spirited Away.
Yes, it does. It does. Absolutely, it does. The big, like
the giant head,
the giant head, and this big, like weird looking nose too, and everything. So yeah, absolutely. And yeah, but it's funny how there's such a creepy quality to her, but then in the end of the episode, what I find so interesting is that while she tells Lorna, oh yeah, see child, I was just trying to protect everyone from the demon inside you this whole time, right? Even though it makes you believe that she's the bad guy or that something about her is creepy, and then in the end you find out, oh no, she was trying to protect everyone, I still think there's a creepy aspect to her.
Why didn't she just use the bell?
Yes, exactly.
To get the demon out.
And so I thought about that. So Wirt and Greg thought to do that, use the bell and to cast the demon out of her. But why did she never do that? And I actually saw someone else say that too. Oh, it seems like a writing error. I don't think it's a writing error. I think it's very intentional, because her relationship with Lorna, it's not her child, but you can kind of extrapolate from the information given that she wishes she had somebody that was close to her, that she could love. And it's interesting how it's an anti-Greg and Wirt dynamic, because Wirt wishes, for a lot of the story, he just didn't have to deal with his brother. But Auntie Whispers is different. She wishes so desperately she had a younger person to be able to take care of, whether it's a daughter or a younger sister or something like that. And so it seems almost like she wasn't casting this demon out because she wanted to keep her under her control. And it almost implies a weird, toxic, codependent relationship between Lorna and Auntie Whispers. And even in the end, Lorna decides to stay with her.
Makes me think of the piano teacher.
Yeah. Yes.
Don't look that
for
one
you
up,
kids who don't know.
Don't look that one up, kids. Well, when you're older. Yeah.
So yeah, what was your favorite episode?
Oh, I liked all of them except episode 3.
I know you didn't like episode 3. Potatoes.
No, not that. I liked the dark aspects of the show. I'm trying to think about what my favorite episode was. I really did like that one, the anti-whispers.
The ringing of the bell. Come on.
I like that. You sound kind of like Ringo Starr when you do that. Anyway, it's interesting watching this show because I had experience of getting lost in the woods when I was a young kid with my kid brother.
Really?
Yes.
Oh, so you were worse.
So when I was in, I don't know, 3rd grade, 4th grade, something like that, my family was on vacation and we went to this cabin in the summer that had woods behind it. So it was on the street, but behind the house, woods. And one day before lunch, we were hanging out outside, and I wanted to see what was behind the house. I wanted to explore the woods a little bit. My brother was skeptical of that, but he went along with it. And I said, it's okay, we'll walk in a straight line, and when we get tired, we'll turn around and walk back. So we walked in a straight line, we went over these little hills, walked in a straight line, we turned around and started walking back. Of course, we must not have turned around all the way or whatever, because we kept walking and walking and walking, and eventually it was clear to us that we were lost. We were not going near the house at all. We just kept walking through the forest. At one point, my brother and I had a pact that if it came down to it, that he could eat me so he could survive.
I was going to make a joke about that, but then I was like, maybe that's not appropriate.
No,
but then you actually did.
I did. I told him he could eat me first. I don't know what the first or second, I don't know how someone could eat, I didn't think it through that much, but I promised he could eat me first.
That was very sweet.
And, but eventually we found a logging road, and we took the logging road down. And at the end of the logging road, there was a house, but there was nobody there. And we kept going, and we came to a rural road, and we start walking down it. And again, I kept thinking of how much I relate to Wirt the whole time watching this show, because there was at some point, there were a small group of girls. I don't know how old they would have been, but I think a little older than us. And my brother's like, we should ask them for help. And I was like, no, we don't know them.
Wirt moment.
Yeah, exactly. I didn't want to humiliate myself in front of them, I guess. And then we kept walking, and eventually we found a development along the side of the road, a little cul-de-sac. Mm-hmm. And there was a house with a police car out front. And my brother says, we should go knock on the door and ask for help. We should go ask the police officer for help. And I say, well, we don't know if it's safe. They might be in the middle of a shootout. I don't want to get shot.
They might be in the middle of a shootout.
And my brother says, the lights aren't on. There's no noise or anything. It's just a parked police car. And I said, okay, we'll go. But if we get shot, it's not my fault. And we knock on the door, and the police officer, he was off work that day, and he said, "Oh, you're the kids that they've been talking about on the radio.
Oh my
They're
God.
missing." And he drove us back to the cabin, and there was a fire truck there. There were a ton of people. Apparently, they were scavenging the woods, looking for us.
Dude.
I never felt so embarrassed. I remember I got out. I hid my face. My parents did not understand how I was embarrassed by my stupidity, and they're like, "Why? You're so rude, not saying anything to them or whatever." You know, I was like, I want to go crawl in a hole right now. So I connected in a visceral level with this story.
That makes a lot of sense.
I have to say this story was a lot more fun than being lost in the woods for several hours as a kid. I'd never been more hungry in my life.
How long were you lost for?
We left at not that long, like maybe 4 hours, but it felt a lot longer.
Oh wow!
Well,
4 hours is still a lot.
At that age, it felt like a lot longer. Plus, we left at like 11:40, so we didn't eat lunch.
Yeah.
For hours, we didn't eat anything.
Yeah.
I'd never been that hungry in my life.
Wow. Oh my gourd, Kyle. You look mad. My pun. Thank you for sharing that story. I don't think I was ever lost as a child. Probably, maybe intentionally ran away for a little bit, but always came back after an hour when I got hungry. But I don't think I ever got lost as a child, really. I don't have any memories of that, but that's I could see the wort in you there in that situation where you felt so embarrassed.
Yes.
By
that was my best man speech at my brother's wedding.
Was it actually?
Yes, was recounting that story.
Oh my God, that's
People
amazing.
liked it.
That's a great story.
Yeah.
That's a great story. I like that, like Wirt, you were a little embarrassed and didn't want to take full responsibility. But I also
I still don't want to.
But I also respect you for telling how old was your brother at the time?
I don't know. He's 3 years younger than me, so he was quite young.
Yeah. How old were you at the time?
Maybe 9.
Perfect. So
9,
you told your 6-year-old brother, if it comes to it, you can eat me. I don't know if I can't imagine being a 6-year-old and just being like, all right.
That's
sure.
That's filial love.
I guess so.
Yes.
Letting your 6-year-old brother cannibalize you if it came to it. That's true familial love right there. Yes. Storge. But yeah, no. Thank you for sharing, Kyle. I think that's a great story of how you told your brother he could eat you if it came to that. I love that.
It still stands. I never revoked that. So
it still stands. You hear that, kids? You make a pact with your little sibling that they could eat you if it ever came to it. That pact lasts for life. There's no take-backsies. There's no give-backs. Nothing like that. So stick to your word, kids. Let your little sister or your little brother eat you if it comes to it.
All right. I think that we got the lesson out there.
Thank you for joining us, kids, on this episode of Jake and Kyle's Spooky Good Time. I'm Jake.
Kyle. Gordy.
This is our pumpkin.
Gordy.
Gordy. Oh no. They're too young for that. Smash the like button. Subscribe today.